Hello, my name is Chloe. Welcome to my channel. Merry Christmas. This is going up on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas. Today I'm bringing to you my best books of 2022. Okay, so in all honesty, I'm trying to pump myself up a little bit here. I've been putting off filming this video. I'm just not motivated to do it. And that is because of the 123 books I've read this year, I rated 17 of them 5 stars, and I only could pick 8 to make it to my favourites list of the year. 8 books of 123. It was the easiest list I've ever had to make. So I'm going to start from the least favourite to the most favourite. That was a tongue twister. What I love to always get you guys to do, if any of you want to pause the video and drop me some suggestions of what you think my favourite books have been this year, that would be very interesting. I'd like to know what has stuck in your brain about my reading. We have a good mix of genres here, a good mix of things I've read across the year. I think February had my most favourite book, so you've got to think all the way back. And actually starting with book number 8. This book I read in February, and it is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I almost made this video 7 books because I just didn't want to be the stereotypical person who adds Cerulean Sea to their favourite books video, but I really did enjoy this book. This book has had a massive hype, and I am not ashamed at all to say I am safely on the hype train. This is about Linus, who leads a very, very quiet life until his job sends him to a little island with a home for orphans. And these orphans just aren't quite normal, let's say. It's just such a charming tale, and I don't really know how much, because I went in quite blind. I didn't want to know anything because I didn't want to get my expectations up because there was already the massive hype. But it's very charming, it made me very happy, and I did find myself forming these relationships with the characters as if they were real, and I have to say the gnome is my favourite. So I won't go on about this one too much, but I did really enjoy it, and it got a slot on my favourite books video. Next up, a complete change of pace, probably the biggest change. Going to November of this year for number 7, we have The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutchison. This book is not perfect at all, but it is so creepy and so disturbing that I absolutely loved it. So this is about a secluded garden where all of the women have been kidnapped and then force tattooed butterfly wings onto their back so that the man that's held them, the gardener, can appreciate his butterflies. And do you know what? That's all I'm going to say. There is an FBI element to this, so we are at the start with one of the butterflies, and so we kind of know that there's an end point to these poor girls suffering, and it's very interesting kind of working to how we got to that point. The ending of this book is not perfect. I still am kind of bothered about what they did with it, but the rest of this book, it's only short. It's less than 300 pages, and it's just so violently disturbing that I loved it. Next up, this shows the range of my reading taste, how differently we're going to go now. Number 6 is also from February, and that is Silkas Journey by Heather Morris. This is the second book in Heather Morris's exploration of Auschwitz stories, the first one being The Tattooist of Auschwitz. And this one, I believe, is rooted in non-fiction, but there are fictionalized elements to give us more of a story of Silka's life. Silka was 16 when she was sent to Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp, and she is noticed by the commandant for her long hair, long beautiful hair, it even says on the back, and she is separated from the other prisoners and given, if you can even call it, special treatment because of how much she physically appeals to this man. After Auschwitz, when she is released, she is then sent, due to her separation from the prisoners, she is sent to another concentration camp in Siberia due to colluding with the Nazis. And this story was just so gut-wrenchingly sad. It was completely heartbreaking, but Heather Morris just wrote it so fantastically that I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait to read the next book in the series, which is Three Sisters, and hopefully I will get to that one soon. Next up, we're still in February, and this is a book I didn't even give it really the time of day as I was reading it, but it's Wildfire by Carrie Mack. This book definitely has issues, and I know that if I read it now, it probably wouldn't have the same impact on me. This is about two people, Annie and Pete, that's it, who go on some sort of hiking excursion-y thing while there are wildfires, and the wildfire is basically closing them in. Just from the blurb, it says, Carrie Mack's gripping story of the power of unrequited love and the danger of the elements is harrowing, beautiful, and unforgettable. And I have to agree, I definitely do not think this is the best book out there. It could have been 100 pages longer, if I'm quite honest. But the pure emotional reaction this got from me was so odd. It was just huge. I don't think I've ever made a noise like I made while I was reading this, of just pure like sadness and anger and hurt and frustration, all from a book. So this book gets slot number 5 for how emotional it made me. Okay, so we're moving into the top half, and there's definitely a theme for the next 3 books. Number 4 is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Did we really think we'd get a best books video from me this year with no Colleen Hoover in it? Of course we didn't. This is a book about Tate, who does not have time for love, and then she meets Miles, who doesn't want to be in love. But they have an undeniable physical attraction to each other, and they decide to pursue this not even relationship, this sexual attraction. But obviously it's never that simple in a Colleen Hoover romance. This book was just such a fun, good time, and I really enjoyed it. It says hearts get infiltrated, promises get broken, rules get shattered, love gets ugly. And it's probably as dramatic as those sentences. It's completely over the top, probably, but I had a really good time. Next up, an author that I have never... Okay, if you start hearing a dog barking, there is one outside that I genuinely, it's nothing to do with me, I can't get it to be quiet. Next up, for the 3rd slot, we have an author that I have never seen to not smash it out of the park. So we have One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book genuinely made me feel things. This is about Emma and Jesse, who are high school sweethearts. They go traveling the world and they get married. And 364 days after their wedding, Jesse is in a helicopter accident and he is presumed dead. Years later, Emma goes back to her hometown. She starts seeing somebody and learns to love again. And while they are engaged, she receives a call from Jesse, her husband, who is not dead. And this book really made me feel things. It was absolutely heart-wrenching, and I was putting myself in Emma's position, and I genuinely don't know how any rational human would be able to comprehend this situation. It's just madness. And the amount that this got in my head was probably unhealthy, but I loved it so much, and I just loved what Taylor Jenkins Reid did with this book. Next up, if you are stumped on what I'm gonna say next, like, this was the most surprising reading year for me. So in 2nd spot, I read this book in July, and It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I love this book so much, and I don't even know why I love it quite so much. It was such a palate cleanser. It was a 5-star romance with no massive turmoil in it that made it dramatic. It was just a good romance. This is about Piper, who is a bit of a spoilt brat, so she gets sent to a small seaside town and meets the grumpy fisherman called Brendan. We love Brendan. This book became smutty out of nowhere, it became emotional out of everywhere, and I just absolutely loved it. I don't know what more I can say about it, really. It's a proper small town romance with city girl vibes, and I just absolutely love it. We love the grumpy sunshine that is Brendan, and yeah. What an amazing book. Last, but obviously by no means least, we have my favourite book of the year, and this was the easiest slot to pick on this list. I knew that this was going to have been my favourite book, and I don't even know how I'm going to convey that to you. This book I read in August. I was so scared that I wasn't going to like it. I was putting it off for the longest time, and I finally got the push to read it, and I'm so glad I did. That is Docile by K.M. Sparrow. This book is so not my kind of thing. There is nothing about this book that I would look at it and genuinely think, right, that is exactly what I want to read. But I loved it so much. I became absolutely obsessed with it and couldn't put it down, especially for the first half. This is about a dystopian society where people can sell themselves effectively into slavery, and when they do so, they can take a drug called docile, making them a docile. Being a docile means you kind of do what you're told without thinking about it, without having any emotional impact on yourself. So it's just you that's being given as a slave, and you don't apparently get any negative repercussions on your own well-being. We follow our main character Alicia, who his mother was a docile slave, and he has seen the negative impact it's had on her life, but his family are struggling for money, so he sells himself into slavery to a very rich man, and he decides that he will not be taking this drug. So he is completely aware of everything that's happening to him. He has complete control of himself and his emotions, and it was just so odd. This book was so odd, it felt so real, and I genuinely became obsessed with it. I did not like the court case elements. I didn't really like the ending, but that was just completely made up after the fact that I loved the rest of the book, couldn't not give this 5 stars, and it has made its way to my top book of the year. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Please do let me know down in the comments whether you guessed any of my favourite books correctly, what your favourite book of the year was, and if you have any suggestions of books I should read based on loving these books. That would be amazing. But for now, that's all I have time for today. Again, Merry Christmas, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!